At this point, I've got this great flower center and all of these lovely petals, but right now each one acts as an individual object, and eventually, since I'm going to be putting this in a vase, I'd like them to act in concert. I'd like to be able to select them as a whole and move them, rotate them, and scale them together. If I window select them and I go to rotate them, you'll see that that happens because they're each rotating from their own individual pivot point. So I need to find a way to take them and give them their own single pivot point. There are two ways that I can do that, and they are both going to be easiest to see over here in the outliner. The first thing I can do is I can take these objects and I can group them. To group, I can either use Edit, Group, or I can use the shortcut Control G. When I group, that creates a new object called a null, or a group. If I click into the group, you'll see that each of my individual flower petals still exists. This is a hierarchic structure where the null, or the group, is the parent of all of the objects that have been nested inside. Some things you should know include this. In Maya, to add or remove objects, you middle mouse click and drag. So if I don't want petal 01 to be in this group, I can middle mouse click and drag. When I drop it, it will be removed from the group. To add it again, I just middle mouse click and drag. When I see a box around group 1, that will add this daisy petal back to the group. I will also move it back up to the top slot in the group by middle mouse dragging and dropping. When I see a single line, I drop. You'll note that out here in the perspective view, I can still select each individual petal. When I hit the up arrow on my keyboard, I will have selected the group node. The down arrow will move me into the group. The up arrow will move me to the group. This particular group is called Group 1. I'm going to double click it and rename it. This will become my daisy petal GRP for group 01 in case I want to make a second group. These groups are really nice because it makes it super easy for me to do things like add more petals to this daisy. So if I think it's looking a little sparse, I can take daisy petal group 01, I can duplicate the group node, Control D to duplicate, and that gives me this daisy petal group 2. I can take daisy petal group 2, maybe I will scale it so the petals get a little bit bigger, move it back, rotate it a tiny bit, and now I can still take the individual petals in daisy group 02. I'll just select all of them. And I can do that fun thing where you rotate them all from their own individual center point. And that's going to give me a really nice array of petal shapes. So now my daisy looks a lot fuller. Maybe I'll even take daisy petal group 1 and make the petals just a tiny bit smaller. And we'll take the petals inside the group. And I'm doing this with the Shift key held down. Let's move them all up a little. So now I've got more of a difference between the two petal layers, and that's looking pretty nice. You can nest groups inside of groups, so I can take these two petal groups and group them together, and now I've got my daisy petal group parent. If I open this, you can see there are my two daisy petal groups, and if I open each one, again I can see all the individual petals. Also again, if I click on any individual petal and hit the up arrow, once moves me into the petal group, and a second time moves me up to the petal group parent. The last fun organizational thing I'll talk about, ooh, I spelled daisy incorrectly, let's fix that, is that in addition to grouping, Maya will also allow you to make objects the parents of other objects. So I can take my daisy petal group parent, I can middle mouse drag it, and I can make it the child of the daisy center. At this point, if I click on the center, here, or here, in each case you'll see that that also selects all of the petals. This isn't something that I do much when I'm modeling. As a modeler, I prefer grouping to parenting. But in other circumstances like rigging and animation, it can be useful to have objects control other objects fully. As a modeler, I prefer grouping because it's easier to keep the objects separate. If I made the petals the child of the center, that means that anytime I look at the center, adjustments will also be made to all of the petals, which is a little bit awkward. If I say, you know what, that center is just too big, I can't simply adjust the center. So I prefer having all of my objects grouped rather than parented. I will make one more group here. I will call this one my daisy flower group. And that will be my topmost group, so as I go to put this on a stem or in a vase, this is the group that I'll work from. I can either select the group node here in the outliner, or I can select any object inside the group node and press the up arrow until I select the group. I'll know that the group is selected because all of the objects will have this same green color on them. You'll see that when I individually select, Shift Select, or Window Select, some of the objects are white, one of the objects is green. This means that the objects are individually selected. And again, if I hit the up arrow, there's my group node. If I look in the outliner, I'm always going to look for a nice, well-organized hierarchy where I can easily select things. So here's my daisy flower group. There's the center, and there are all of the petals. Inside the petal group, I've got the frontmost petals and the further back petals, and that is a nice, well-organized flower. The relationship between objects is going to come up throughout your entire career in 3D. So take a few minutes here, get used to the middle mouse dragging and dropping. If you prefer using the Edit menu to group or even to ungroup, that's just fine, but get used to it, figure out where the commands are, and figure out how you like selecting things. I strongly encourage you to get used to using that up arrow to move back and forth through your hierarchy. And this is a great time for you to take a few minutes, get your flower organized.